Like, I was like, I was like, I'm having anxiety over this. Hello, and welcome to the Weeder Life podcast. I'm your host, Erica Weederlight, and I am the CEO and founder of We the Light. I help humans who feel inadequate, broken, self-conscious, and shamed around their sexuality to reclaim their aliveness, their power, and to have a renewed relationship to pleasure while preparing themselves to feel hella confident to date others and themselves. AKA, I'm guiding people to live their #best lives. I have to give you a fair warning. I do unfortunately swear like a drunken sailor, so if you do have little ones by you, just be sure to pop in some earbuds. All right, friends, let's buckle up and let's rock it to this week's episode. I think I genuinely say this every episode that I'm like, oh my God, I'm so psyched for the next guest today. But I'm like, actually so psyched for the next guest today. I woke up at 5 a.m. being like, yes, we're going to talk about money. We're going to talk about mindset. We're going to talk about pleasure. Like, I am genuinely jazzed for this conversation. And as we'll talk about in this conversation, it goes beyond money. It goes beyond money. It's a whole conversation. I'm like, Erica, don't go into it yet. We'll have our guests talk about this. So without further ado, I have to introduce someone that is in my community that I really look up to, that is so fabulous. Eleanor Prisco. Eleanor's fucking slaying it. She's a money and mindset coach, and she focuses on the financial empowerment of women through the feminine finance method. And this is a strategy she founded and she so gorgeously teaches. And she shares this is why I'm obsessed with her, many reasons. But a huge reason why I'm obsessed is she shares this like totally different approach to engaging with your money than the industry we're used to. Because we know, and we'll talk about this, like we're used to the crunch, like don't drink the latte, don't do the things. Like we know the scarcity way of some of these money teachers. She doesn't do it that way. She does it through fabulousness, pleasure, all the things. And she genuinely and deeply believes this, and you could see it how she lives her life. The key to creating an empowered and intimate relationship with your money is by showing up for your money the way you want it to show up for you. Like what? We must discuss. So I can go on, but let's do it up. Hi.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here. It's just so good.
Oh, I'm so fucking jazzed you're here. Like, because like who doesn't love, I mean, LOL, like I do sexual empowerment, you do money. Those are like the most taboo topics. So I'm like, like, let's get into the taboo. But like, and I'm sure you feel this too. Like for me with clients, it's like, we could be doing all of the empowerment work in the world, but if they're like, I'm having a panic attack around, like they could be empowered, they can be embodied, but if they're like, Erica, I'm having a panic attack, rightfully so, over money, it's like, there's only so much we can do. So money is a huge component of this work to feel safe, to feel regulated in the nervous system. Like, can I pass the mic to you on that? Like, can you talk to us about like, first and foremost, like, why you're attracted to this work? Yeah, you know where I'm going. I give you the mic.
Absolutely. Gosh, yes. I mean, already, right? Like exactly what you said, right? Like we can be doing all the work possible, but like if our nervous system suddenly freaks out when it comes to engaging with our money, doing something with our money, it's really hard for someone to be like, oh yeah, these are just the things I have to do, or this is just the strategy I need to do, when literally your nervous system can't get behind it because it feels so unsafe, right? And I'm sure from obviously your work and other guests you've had, like you have the conversation around like, okay, like past experiences get programmed into your nervous system, right? So like if we were not exposed to empowering ways of engaging with our money, or just like, honestly, like unconditional love and compassionate ways to engage with our money, or like understanding that we don't need to be this perfect being. Like, I mean, this must be mirrored. I mean, it's mirrored so much, right? Like the idea that we have to be like this perfect being in like our sexual activities, right? Versus like, we need to be this perfect being with our money. But it's like, real quick, who taught you about money? Where is it in our traditional education system even? Like, did you take like just a money management course? Just like, I'm not even talking about business, finances, taxes. I'm saying like, just like how to engage with your money.
Yes.
Understanding bills. Like, did that happen for you? Because like I don't remember that in like high school. I don't remember in elementary. I don't remember in college. Like
Right.
what?
Right.
Like, right. So we hold ourselves to these really high perfectionism standards, and that can really, trigger those moments of our nervous system going into like a trauma response or like a panic attack, right? Because we hold ourselves to these expectations of like, this is how I'm supposed to be with my money, right?
Mm.
That like all of the industry is telling me, I shouldn't have credit card debt. I shouldn't even be using credit cards. I should have, $1 million in my retirement savings. I should be putting, X, Y, and Z, and like I shouldn't be spending in this way. And like, how dare I buy avocado toast? And like, like it's like, and you suddenly are like, oh my gosh, I'm doing everything wrong. And you just become steeped in like disapproval and judgment and stress. And it's just like, well, of course, an overwhelm of the nervous system is going to happen because
Yes.
it's like, it's all so unsustainable. And it's really, because of the taboo, right? It's really, there's a lack of like true communication about like, hey, this is just what money is. It doesn't need to be a positive or negative. Like, it's just neutral. Like, this is money and like, this is how we interact with it. So, I just want to say, like, right, if anyone is going into like a nervous system freak out, right, moment, a trauma response, that's so normal, right? Because there is such a lack of financial education that exists in our
Mm.
society and like in our world currently. And more specifically, even if you get exposure to financial education, and I'm talking about household, financial planning or, as an entrepreneur, business financial planning. There's such a lack of that. And then if you do get exposed to it, most of the time it's really unsustainable techniques, right?
Yes. Yeah, you're hitting on, I'm like, holy shit. Like you're
I
hitting
know.
on such a good point because God bless everyone. And like if it jams for you, it jams for you. But like I've been trying to improve myself basically my whole life. But like,
Right.
like I have sought after lots of money coaches and like God bless, but like it's funny, it's a different energy, at least what I've seen, than like pretend a sexual empowerment coach. Because
Mhm.
it's like there's this rigidity that I've seen that it's like has to be love and light, has to be perfect, like you can't have the latte, like this like and like
Yeah.
that's glad like that's and sometimes like my ego is attracted to that because I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna be perfect. And then it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm like, ooh, that's hot. Like I love it. And like, but there's some ego attraction to it. And then I'm like, and then the shame comes and I'm like, this is not fucking sustainable. So I'm so grateful that you voice that you are teaching a technique that is like, you have a relationship with instead of like this big scary thing that if you're not perfect, you're going to be like slapped,
Yeah.
like it's like, what a beautiful, could we go into that? Like how you're so about talking about like having intimacy with finance, like that's so not talked about. Can you talk about what you teach around that?
Yeah, absolutely. So a huge aspect of like what it means to build intimacy in your relationship with money is about finding the way that you can consistently show up for your money the way you want it to show up for you. So exactly like I mean like this is like the foundation of my work, right? Of the feminine finance method is like how do you want your money to show up for you? You need to start showing up that way. Like it's understanding that you're truly in a relationship with money. Like money isn't like an energetic entity
Mm,
and you desire to be supported by it. But the thing that can come up, right? And I'm going to go on a totally different tangent.
do it.
Like, so the challenge that can come up, right? And I know this for my own lived experience, right? Was like when I grew up in lack, right? When I grew up in scarcity, which was my lived experience, like and not to say like I'm angry about that or like upset, but what that did to my nervous system and my relationship with money was like I weirdly resented money, but I deeply wanted money. But when you have that conflicting energy of like, I think money is the cause of all problems and I hate it, but I want a lot of it because it's going to solve all the problems, like you're like, wait a minute, what? Like,
Yes. What is
like
this
it's
discord?
right. Like you're like, it becomes really challenging to develop some type of intimacy or sustainability with your relationship with money. So a huge aspect of that, right, of what I teach when it comes to building intimacy is like, number one, you have to uncover that relationship or your beliefs around money, right?
Mm.
And so in the work with my clients and my community and my group programs, right, it all comes back to like, okay, well, like, what is your current relationship with money? It's no big deal, whatever it is, right? Because it's just where you're at right now. And then, like, what is the ideal relationship that you want, right? So, in my own journey, I had to uncover, like, oh, wait, I actually have been like vilifying money. Yeah, I want a lot of it. And like, if I'm vilifying money and I think money is bad, if I get it, then I'm going to become a bad person. Right.
Mm.
So, like, I had to rectify and become in line with the fact that, like, wait, money is neither good or bad. It's literally just an energy, it's like neutral. And so, I need to get clear on like, what would money provide to me and understanding that it is a relationship of like, this is what it's going to provide to me. This is the type of relationship I want. I desire to feel financially empowered. I desire to be, impacting and transforming my life. I desire to be impacting and transforming my community with my financial power. Right. And
Yes.
so that's like the mindset side, but then there's the strategy side, right? Because we're talking
Yes.
about like, that's all a mental game kind of like, okay, this is just what we're thinking. But then like, how do we actually build sustainable intimacy? And a huge aspect of that comes into alignment with a lot of work that you probably do, right? Of like figuring out what is your flavor of pleasure. And this goes
Yes.
back to your nervous system of like, if you want to check in with your money, what is going to help your nervous system feel safe to do so?
Mm.
Right.
Yes.
So when I say check in with your money, it could be as simple as looking at your bank account, right? Because like we could be in a position where it's like, I mean, like, and I've done it. It's just like, I don't want to look at that. Not right
Yep.
now. Not right now. Like,
Maybe tomorrow.
right. And our nervous system can like override looking at our bank account, right? Or it could be like reviewing our transactions or looking at our college loans or, looking at credit cards. So the thing is, this is where the critical strategy that I teach, which is a money date. And you may have heard about a money date. It's not like I invented this. It's just I invented the version of this, right?
Yes.
So like people are like, oh, money dates. Yeah, it's where you go look at your finances. Yep, that is what it is. However, I have implemented in the feminine finance method, along with other things, like what's going to make your nervous system feel safe in doing so. A lot of times that means how can we make this experience pleasurable? Because how you're relating to checking in with your money is this is not pleasurable.
Yes.
This is shame filled. I'm going to be guilted. I'm going to feel horrible about myself. I'm going to be in complete disapproval.
Yes.
So if we decide to turn towards, a money date, we're asking ourselves, okay, well, what does my nervous system need? Right? Do I want to feel like a boss bitch and like get like all dressed up and like have a green juice, a coffee, like be at my desk and like be in like a whole, like get a blazer, like, like get some like boss CEO vibes in there, right? Like kind of like do an alter ego persona and just be like, I'm about to like be in my like dominance,
Yes.
right? Or is it like, Eleanor, my nervous system has been wrecked. Like, I don't think you understand, right? Like, I would prefer to be in a fluffy robe under a giant duvet with some essential oils in my bed.
Yes.
And a cup of tea. Or you're like, oh, I want to play in like some different energy of like, I want to play with like a little bit of like a kink or, being really turned on. So is it like putting on lingerie, doing it by candlelight, getting yourself like a favorite beverage, a delicious like snack to have, right? But it's literally asking ourselves, like, how can we get our nervous system into a different state?
Yes.
To show up in the way that we want to for our money to actually cultivate the intimacy.
Yes. There's 56 things I want to highlight. So I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, I should write notes, but I don't have it in me. But okay, there's 56 things I have to highlight. I'm obsessed. First and foremost, let's get this out of the way but I'm obsessed with I'm so glad you brought up this thing of like the flavor of pleasure.
Yeah.
Really briefly, like everyone knows I fucking talk about pleasure like I'm blue in the face. They're like, shut the fuck up. Like, please stop talking about this. But it's funny because I'm so repetitive because it works.
Hmm.
And I'm so glad you brought up the flavor because I'll say something personally and then we'll move on. Like, I'm sure you've been here too. Like, I personally relate to a certain season of pleasure, or I have been in the past. And I'm like, God bless, God bless, God bless. And my body and nervous system's like, actually, we're shifted. Like, that was more like outrageous, like
Yeah.
S Factor and perfume and lingerie, like that vibe. And now it's like, honey, we're going into the winter of like, rest and like
Yeah.
this vibe. And I was like, so I wanted to highlight, like, thank you, that like I think when we talk about pleasure sometimes it triggers a lot of us of like it should look like this and it's the red lipstick or it's the lover and it's this. It's like what it could mean. It means so many different things for us at
Hmm.
different points in our lives. Like right now that seems horrible to me. Like right now, like you said, it's the duvet, like the duvet, it's eating macaroons in bed. Like that is my
Yeah.
version right now. So I thank you so much for highlighting that. So it takes away like the stigma, the shame, the I'm wrong. I love that. And I'm also like obsessed because I think unconsciously we relate to money like this weird thing outside of us.
Yeah.
So I'm like so grateful that you're like, no, it's a relationship.
Hmm.
So like I'm literally obsessed that like we're creating pleasure and like feeling good around it. My question is, so I'm obsessed with money dates. God bless integrating them ASAP. Can you talk to us? And I'm trying to practice this too, like in real time. Like I had this yesterday. Like I'm trying to get better of like I'm going and I'm swiping my card. You know what I mean? And I had this. Invested in a course yesterday, and I was like, ooh, I see the like creepy crawlies. Like, can you talk about with us like the energy, like the day to day, like
Hmm.
showing up? Yeah, can you talk about like the middle ground in between like rituals of like money
Yeah.
dates? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think like a critical thing that happens, like when we start to go on consistent money dates, right, and building that intimacy with our money, what happens is like because so okay, so I want to talk about what the industry does and then like how my approach is different because I think that's going to really help people understand. So a lot of times when you are like, okay, I'm going to get right with my money, I'm going to create a budget. It's going to be intense. We're diving in. There's a goal. We have a goal in mind. We're going for it, like, and it means like a lot of these deprivation techniques. So in the day to day, it's like you walking by your favorite cafe or like not feeling like cooking that night and you're going to order out or like friends invite you to something and you're like looking at your card to like, oh, I want to go buy this coffee or I want to get a pastry or I want to go out tonight. And you're literally like, no. And it's bad that you want that.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Amen. Yes.
So like, and that's because like the entire budget you've probably built has been on deprivation,
Yes.
right? Like it hasn't actually taken into consideration, like, this is your life. How have you been spending? What does your life look like? Right. Instead, it's deemed like if you buy coffee out, you're a bad money manager and it's detrimental to your retirement. Like that, like
Yes.
it's
No,
like
it's so
suddenly an
true.
if then statement where you're suddenly like, we're talking about a coffee today. All of a sudden, I'm, 65 and have zero in the bank. Like,
It's literally I go to the darkest place. I'm like, well, here
yeah.
I go.
Exactly, right? It's just like, whoa, we went to doomsday quick. Like, and that is not to say that I'm advocating don't put money in retirement or put
Right.
money in savings. 100% advocate for those things. But like the stark intensity that the industry kind of like teaches us to like put ourselves into like a shame guilt spiral for like wanting a coffee out is just imbalanced. I'll just put it that way, right?
Yeah.
It's a little imbalanced. So when we decide to be like on the day to day and we start developing intimacy with our money where we're just like checking in on it, seeing where our bank account is at versus building like a deprivation based budget, right? When instead we decide to go from this space of, and of course you guys can't see me because we're on a podcast, but I'm moving my hands side to side. When we go to this side, right, of like, I'm going to decide to build a relationship with my money. I'm going to build intimacy. I'm going to check in on my money. What happens is we actually start to naturally see out of alignment spending,
Mm.
right? because we're choosing to go into a space around like neutralness, unconditional love and compassion for ourselves, of just like, I'm just deciding to get into an observational state and to understand like, where is my money going, right? That's like where we want to start.
Yeah.
And instead of being like, oh, I need to judge myself for that, it's like, okay, I spent this money. I'm out at this day to day, give myself permission to buy this coffee, be out, and then like, let me see how I feel about it, versus let me take society's judgment of how I should feel about it, but like genuinely ask myself, oh, did it feel good to spend that money that way? Because what happens here, like on a day to day, when we don't have intimacy with our money, is that a lot of very interesting like kind of patterns can come up for us, where like, let's say you've been on a deprivation budget, right? And you have been really committed to it. Maybe you stayed on it for a couple months, or even like just a few weeks, like a couple weeks. And then you get to that point where like something tips, right? Like there's like a tipping point where you're like so frustrated and you're like, I work so hard. I, have done so much, right? Or like you have this like savings account where you keep putting money into it for that rainy day fund. I hate that. I cannot stand that. Your saving intention, you should have intentions for your savings. You can have a general savings account. That's totally fine. But if you set yourself up with a rainy day fund, I can guarantee you're going to offload that money once it hits a certain dollar amount that your nervous system feels okay with. Like, you're going to be like, oh, I totally deserve this. I'm just going to like get rid of this money. Right. And like, it's like, that's not what you have to have. You're willing, like your every day can be like, I'm just going to observe this. I'm going to see how I feel. And like, I'm going to actually assess, okay, was this kind of like an internal, like teenager rebellion because I was feeling frustrated about how restricted I was being on myself.
Right.
Right. Or was this like a like almost like a sense for a grasp of control? Because when we don't have intimacy with our money, there is no control present. Like no one is in control of the situation.
Need to breathe that one in. I'm like, ugh.
So like, then we're going to do some activities to like aggressively grasp for control, right?
Yes.
Which a lot of time comes out in unaligned spending, because we're literally like, I'm in control of the situation. Look at the financial choice I'm making.
Yes.
Like, okay, totally fine. That's a totally okay financial choice. Like, and like, did that like truly feel in alignment for you?
Yeah. I'm like screaming because I've talked about this a lot, but I've really talked about this recently. This resonates with me because I've always had an interesting relationship with food. It's very feast or famine, and money, LOL, like they're so fucking interconnected because I do the same patterns with money and food. Yeah. Like it's either scarcity city and we're not spending a cent and we get off on or it's like we're going to town, we're going to Wendy's and we're swiping the card. Like it is so, for me personally, like that narrative is like alive and well within me. So like it's funny, when I started healing some of the money stuff and the food stuff, like they were very interconnected for me. It almost feels like going from like, for me, like binge eating to like intuitive eating. Like it's like the money, right? Like it's like, oh, like instead of it being so controlled of like, I'm gonna watch every cent or fuck it, it's like, okay, like we're having an intimate, like it's like the gray area. Can you talk about, like, I'm obsessed. Can you talk about like, how can we make it safe to be in that space, like in the intuitive space? Because I know sometimes people are like, fuck yeah, that sounds hot, but like, fuck, what are the logistics of that,
Yeah. So the thing that becomes so challenging here when going into like this intuitive space, right, which is the aspects of the feminine finance method, right? It's like you're choosing to get like build this intimacy, become into like alignment of like what feels good for you. It's actually like a period of like, you don't have a plan. And so people freak out, right? Because we're told we're supposed to have a plan, like for everything, not just money. Like everything needs a plan. You need a checklist. You need to like, but really what it is like you get into a space of like, okay, I'm getting into a state of observance and just seeing what my nervous system reaction is to my spending or my everyday action, right? that doesn't mean like to like go out and like rack up credit card debt. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is like when you take like a month to just like observe and like if for the folks that are like, I cannot do this, Eleanor, this is not okay. I recommend go on a money date, pull 1 month of like your regular transactions from your accounts and review what that spending has been in different areas. Like
Mm.
if you really deeply need a plan, then you can have an understanding of like, oh, I kind of spend this much in each of these areas. You need that little plan. That's okay. You can totally do it that way.
Yes.
Um, but like a huge aspect is like understanding that your spending is going to fluctuate month to month in different areas. Like one month it might be higher in dining out, 1 month it might be higher in self-care because like you go get your haircut and like you like replenish your like skincare products or whatever it might be, right? Or like for instance, a lot of times like we want to beat ourselves up for like known surprises, right? These are my favorite things. Because it's like, yo, guys, every year, what happens in December? The holidays come.
Yep.
And always like, how dare I spend this money? Right?
I'm so reckless.
Right? But it's like we knew this was not this is a known surprise. Like,
Yep, like it's
but
happening
we
every year.
behave like it's like we've done really like outlandish things. Or this can also happen folks with children, right? Back to school shopping. It's like every
Yes.
August, you know, like this kind of higher spending is going to come up. Or, you know, if you live in colder climates, like where I grew up, new winter coats, ski pants, like all of these things. So like there's these normal like ebbs and flows of like increased spending that like we don't necessarily when we build those deprivation budgets, right, and we decide to go to that rigidity versus intuitive, right,
Mm.
we don't give ourselves that spaciousness of like, oh yeah, this kind of ebbs and flows, and we may have like a plan or like an outline of what's going to happen, but there are going to be areas that we spend more in depending on what's happening in our lives, right? So getting into that space of like, how do we actually like implement that like intuitive space with our money is really comes back to like it comes back to regrounding a lot into unconditional love and compassion for yourself.
Mm. Yeah.
Because like you constantly are like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't be spending this, and it's like, wait a minute, I want to be in a more observant space and just kind of see like what my feelings are about this, like, and is it aligned spending? And so like it's a lot of internal conversations that you end up having to like get into a space, right? Which I'm sure this is like very comparable to when you choose to like pursue intuitive eating versus, you know, like deprivation or binging or, you know, anything like that, right? It's like, oh, what does my body actually want right now? What does it need right now? And like the same thing can happen with money of like, oh, what is my nervous system craving? Like, is this spending coming? Because it's like, no, this is like an aligned investment choice spending versus like, oh, I would like to feel better in this moment. And this purchase is going to make me feel better.
Yes. I'm like obsessed because, I really genuinely believe like we all have the power within us. Like I really am like woo woo in that I'm like, we all are like, divine inside of us.
Yeah.
And this is why I'm obsessed with our work because I think there's a lot we can do by ourselves, but like what we're doing can be extremely triggering and we need to be held. So like I am so grateful that I'm so proud of both of us. But I'm really grateful for your work because it's so funny like being in the yin or being in the softness or I hate the feminine masculine thing, but you know what I mean? Like being in that energy of like softness, intuitive, that is triggering as fuck in this society. Like being in the quote unquote, you know what I mean? The feminine is like triggering as fuck to be in that space because we're taught like that's so bad. That's so wrong to be in softness. Like it feels really unsafe.
Mm-hmm.
So then add that plus money, which already is so many layers of conditioning and stories. Like I'm just really so grateful for people like you that hold us to uncondition and decondition all of these programmings about these two things. And so I'm really grateful for you and the amazing work you're doing.
Yeah, I think that like you bring up such a good point in that like like I think 2 points are brought up. Like number one, being held in this space is so important, right? And
Yeah.
impactful to this work. Whether like when it's like things that are so taboo, such as money and sex, it's it's so transformative because like you have someone that's willing to hold the space and the vision of the relationship you want with money or
Yes.
sex, right? But it's also like they're able to give you permission to forgive yourself for whatever's coming up, right?
Yes.
And that can be so transformative because it is really hard to do because with these two things, they're so ingrained of like what is right and wrong in society when it comes to money and sex
Yeah.
that permission giving is actually like deeply transformative, right?
Yes. Yes.
And the other part that you bring up of like being in container, whether it be like one on one or like deciding to enter a group program around sex or money, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but something that is deeply transformative is what happens in money. And I'm certain that it happens in sex, right? We silo ourselves off,
Yes.
right? Like we're like, I'm the only one that thinks this way, that has this experience. I'm the one that's like fucked up, that like is this way with money, is this way with sex, is like, and we because it's what society has told us to do, right? Don't
Yeah.
talk about these dirty topics, right? That's the dirty laundry. You don't want to air that out to the neighbors, et cetera, right? But the thing is, when we actually enter into community, whether that be in a one-on-one space with a coach or a community like a tight set container, right? We suddenly discover, oh my gosh, I'm not alone.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so much community can develop that is so transformative, right?
Yes.
And so it's like, oh wait, like no, like I'm not fucked up. I'm not alone. Like these beliefs that have held me, kind of trapped in this way of behaving and acting and like experiencing life, right? Or experiencing my money, they're not true. And like, in
Yeah.
fact, tons of other people are experiencing the same thing. And like I can choose a new way, right? Like there's a lot that happens, I think, when we decide to finally be willing to talk about these things that hold so much power over us in our internal conversations, such as like sex and money.
Oh, I'm obsessed. And also I'm having an anxiety moment. So, so I have to scroll back because I'm like, I have to clean this up and I have to clear this up
Yeah.
within myself too. So I want to voice this. It's a random, you're gonna be like, what the fuck? But I have the impulse, how I said like the feminine, the masculine. And I'm like, I
Oh
hate
yeah.
the feminine. And I'm
Yeah.
like, wait, I guess so I wanted to clear that up because I love the feminine. Like that's
Yeah.
actually like the feminine masculine is a huge component of my work. And I know you agree with me.
Yeah.
What I was talking about was I hate when people feel excluded by those terminology. So
Absolutely.
you know
Yeah.
exactly what so I was like, oh no. Yeah, like I know we stand for similar things. So that's why
Yeah.
I was like, fuck. But it's good for me to notice because
Yeah.
how I talk about it, I need to find better languaging of like, no, I do love the feminine masculine, that it all exists and it's not the binary. So
Yeah.
yeah, I just had a
Yeah.
moment because yeah, I'm like I fucking hate that shit. And I'm like, oh my god, Erica, wow, like stop, you just hate you get what I'm saying. But I wanted to clear that up because I'm like, oh, like I was like that. I was like, I'm having anxiety over this. So I do love what it stands for. The feminine meaning intuition,
Yeah.
flowing, movement, sacredness,
Yeah.
intuition, all that good stuff. So wanted to highlight that back because I was like, ooh, that was a weird moment that I just had. But so we stand on the same things, but I had to clear that up because I have anxiety. So
I totally
you
understand
get
that.
you get exactly what I'm saying because we do this work and we also want to be inclusive to all.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's why I was like, oh, sorry, that was weird. Um, real time Erica doing her things. But I want to talk about too because you and I have similar languaging because we've gone through like similar programs and we are in the similar containers in the world. And a lot of the containers that we're in talk about, and I talk about this a lot in my work and the podcast, like essentially like archetypes
Hmm.
or like showing up.
Yeah.
Like how would this, so I love the quote, or I don't even know if this is a quote, but I love I love the theory of, or I heard this quote this morning about Marianne Williamson. It's a little different than archetypes, but she was saying like, it's not really what the world, like, it's not what you manifested. It's not like what the world like dealt out to you. It's who you've become
Yeah.
within the context of showing up for that. And it's the same shit, like, right? Like, we're in the coaching world, so we always hear like, I had a 20K month, or I had $1 million month. Like, it doesn't, yes, those things are great,
Yeah.
but it's almost besides the point. Like, it's like, who did I have to become to be that person that attracted this life and da da da. So can you talk to us about like that? Like, who
Mhm.
did you have to become? Who do you encourage others to become while celebrating where they're at?
Yeah.
To have this newfound relationship with money.
Yeah, absolutely. Such a good question. And so like you kind of bring up like two points that I want to touch on. Like number one, like how do you encourage that like duality, right?
Yes.
Celebrating where you're at, but then like understanding like who do I need to become? And then just like the point I want to bring up, which you didn't exactly touch on, but I feel like we were about to go there, of just like this like common said thing of just like, act like it's already happened. Just like act like it's already happened, which is something that like annoys me because like it gets a lot of people confused, right?
Yeah.
And so I want to touch on that too, because
Please.
so if I forget to get there, remind.
Don't worry. I will, because it's put me in some interesting situations. So I will definitely remember.
Yeah. So okay. So like number one is like how do we celebrate like where we're at and then also think about who we want to become. So number one is like actually celebrating where you're at, like giving, because the thing is, if you actually want to move forward and like change your relationship with money, you have to be willing to let go of re-incriminating yourself for all the past actions you've taken with money.
Yeah.
Okay. So like, cause you can't become the six-figure person. You can't become the $1 million person, the $1 billion person, whatever that like financial empowerment looks like to you, because that can look different for all of us. Like you can't be that person until you're willing to like let go of like getting off on re-incriminating yourself for like everything you've done wrong in your
Oh,
finances.
yeah.
Right.
That's super helpful.
So like the important way to do that is like it's the way that I frame this to my community is that like you're perfect now. And every single one of your financial choices has also been perfect. You could tell me the quote unquote biggest financial mistake I've made in my life, and I would be like, it's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It's perfect. Because when you finally give yourself permission to be perfect now, what happens is you're saying, like, I'm perfect now. And all of the choices I have made are perfect because they've given me critical information into me becoming who I am today and who I will continue to evolve to be. Like
Yes.
you neutralize all of that energy that you spend re-incriminating yourself for like, oh, I should have known better. Like, don't we love that one when it comes to our money? Oh, we just get off so much on it, right? We're just like, no, no, no. I should have known better. It's different for me, Eleanor. I should have known better. I was like, oh, please tell me this like incredible financial education. And this is me like, playing obviously like I understand how deeply traumatic it can feel to be like, I should have known better and deeply believe that within your nervous system. But it's like also like, really, how could you have known better? Tell me this incredible financial education that you got, this like all this information that you literally just disregarded and ignored in making this financial choice. And, like, is that really serving you, right? Turning to our past and re-experiencing all of this pain where yes, we can heal that and we don't want to ignore it, but it's literally like, what information did I gain? And so like that brings you to being like, I am where I'm at and I am making choices to transform my future. So I can celebrate that, right? You can celebrate this. And then it's about asking yourself, okay, what do I want my relationship with money to look like?
Yeah.
What kind of financial person do I want to be? What does financial empowerment look like for me? And then that's how you uncover kind of the archetype or, like a alternate persona or like futuristic self that you start to embody today, right? And like step into and claim. And it's not to say that this person is outside of you. I'm sure you've done tons of conversations around like alter egos and like different embodiment practices of like archetypes and things like that. It's like, no, you're a multidimensional being. All these people are within you, right?
Yes.
And it's just about like playing with this other side and like integrating her more or integrating them more into your being now, right?
Yes.
And the whole act as if thing
Yes.
can be a big old trap for a lot of us.
Yes. Yep.
Because like our very adorable brains are like, okay, I'm going to act as if. And if I'm making, 20K months, if I'm having these 100K launches, if I have this 6-figure job, if I've made $1 million, I'm going to go out and buy that like Gucci belt, that Gucci bag, buy the Louis Vuitton, go get the Chanel purse, like whatever it might be, buy this extravagant, vacation, whatever, right? We can be like, that's what I need to do. I need to go and spend as if.
Yeah. Oh, damn. Yeah.
And it's like, no. Like, now, that is not to say, like, deprive yourself. I hope you figured out already this far in. I do not advocate deprivation. But our minds on it, and no one clarifies this, right? And all these just act as if. It's like going out and spending as if, right? However, that's not what you need to do. You need to go out and take action in money making activities as if, right?
Yeah.
If you're the person that wants the 6-figure business, or you're the person that wants the successful podcast, or you're the person that wants the promotion at work, right? It's truly thinking about, okay, if someone's running a 6-figure business or a 7-figure business, if someone's running a successful podcast, like what are they doing?
Mm-hmm.
Right? If someone's going for the promotion or like a higher title at a different company, right? They're looking at different companies. They're applying to those jobs. They're showing up on social media consistently. They kind of have a branded look maybe, and it doesn't have to be professional. It's just like a consistent branded look, right? They're interviewing people. They're showing up consistently, like in the sense that like, you're like, this is who I am, what my brand is. You have an up-to-date LinkedIn resume, like, right? Like, cause this could go for like corporate world or entrepreneur world. Like, it's like, what money making activities are you doing as if?
I am slapped so good. I want to like briefly say like I'm slapped and gagged so good because I for so long was like, oh, that means I swipe. And then I had a lot of shame because I put myself in debt. So then I got out of debt. And then I was like, that was foolish. That didn't work. See, manifesting is fake.
Yeah.
Like I had that narrative for a while. And then I had like a rocky weeble wobble, like where the fuck do I stand with all of this now?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I was like, like what is my truth in all of this now? So I'm so glad that you're like, no, God bless. Like if something resonates with you, like if the croissant resonates with you, yes. And it's more of like, who are you showing up for? If it's 20K, like who is that person? How do they take care of themselves?
Yeah.
What action steps? I'm like, LOL. So like I've recently had to learn that, and I'm like, thank you for that real deep reminder. And here's the thing too I want to highlight, because some people listening are entrepreneurs, some are not. Yeah. The money is, God bless, like we love the money. And like this is such a cool, like I know I talked about this before with the Marianne Williamson quote, but like this is so cool because like you said, it's like, who are we becoming? Like I know for me, like I'm in a place right now where I needed a moment to like settle, and I'm going into more expansion. And for me, like I'm showing up in a bigger way, like work-wise, which is exciting, like more podcasts. And is that like great? But like, because I'm growing, my capacity is growing.
Yeah.
So that means like I'm committing to my morning practice, where in the past I'd be like snooze. So I'm like, I am waking at 5, waking up at, it's not from a place of perfectionism or grossness, but like it stretches me to like wake up and do my yoga and my mindset. Like it's so regardless of the money, like God bless, open the bank account, come in, like regardless of the money, like I am showing up in a better, cleaner, more aligned energy. So like
Right.
I love this because the money, fuck yeah, the money, but it's almost like a portal. The
Yeah.
work that you're teaching is like a portal to our higher self,
Yeah.
divination, all like it's cool that there's like such huge spiritual undertones in your work.
Yeah. No, that's so true. And I want to quickly call out,
Please.
like, so completely, totally down with your 5 a.m. wake up and then pacing
Yes.
routine. So fabulous. A huge thing that I also teach, right, is that like that's your aligned
Yes.
self,
Amen.
right?
Yes.
Like, and this is so true for money too, because this is going to get into like, because it's like when you get into like your aligned self, we can get delicious comparison comes in.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And we're just like, oh my gosh, wait a minute. Erica's waking up at 5 a.m. to be her like 20K, 40K self. That's what I need to do. That's what a 20, 40K self does. And it's like, it doesn't have to be your 20, 40K self. Like,
Yes.
and it's more about like, no, who is your like most financially empowered self?
Yes.
What does that look like? What does that business look like? What does that job look like? What, that like whole situation. And then another flavor that comes in here is like, what does that luxury look like for you? Right. Because like this kind of transitions over to that feeling of like, oh, well, her luxury is a Chanel bag. Her luxury is like a G-Wagon. That has to be my luxury. Doesn't actually have to be. Like luxury is yours to define. Right. So it's, yeah, I think that like when we start to uncover who our most aligned self is, right? We
Yes.
sometimes can get into this comparison and be like, well, this is who I need to be to get that. And it's like, no, no, no. Let's pull back from that and really ask ourselves, what do you desire?
Yeah, no, I think that's like really permission giving too, especially in this community. Because I think for a long time, I was like, if I'm going to be spiritual, I have to like only wear white and go to Kundalini yoga at 4 a.m. Or then I went into this like more this realm that we're in now. I'm like, I have to sleep till 3 and
Mhm.
eat macaroons in Paris. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck? Like, so I had to like
Like
really
I
get
can't
clear,
do
like,
any masculine,
yeah.
like quote unquote masculine. I can't have this
Yes.
hustle hard mentality. It's like, oh my gosh, like let me just be lazy and like how dare I try and put any structure into the whole situation?
Yes, exactly. That's why I was like, oh, so like I had to go get clear, like you said, like what is my? I want to touch on this too. Like, what is my luxury? And sometimes my luxury is waking up at 5, and that makes me feel great. And sometimes it's like, no, bitch, you're
Yeah.
absolutely not waking up at 5. So sometimes my luxury is, oh, this does make me feel alive, and sometimes my luxury is, I'm gonna go to the Italian pastry place. Like we all have that in us, and thank you for I think we've seen, like you said, like we see the G-Wagon, Gucci bag, which God bless, sign me up for all of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I'm about it. That is my flavor too. So I'm like, I love the green juice and the Gucci bag. So like, I love that you're giving permission. I think there's a lot of shame too
Yeah.
when people are like, oh, I genuinely don't. I mean, I'll take it, but like, I genuinely don't desire the Gucci bag. So
Yeah.
then there's a story of like, oh, that means that luxury isn't for me. And I'm
Right.
so glad that you've redefined like, no, it's for all of us.
Yeah.
It's just your specific flavor. Can you talk to us briefly about like why you think look because I could hear people like fighting back, like,
Yeah.
but I don't need it. Like,
Yeah.
can you like make a fight
Yeah.
for luxury?
Yeah, for sure. So I think, okay, so this is actually, oh my gosh, I'm so happy you asked this question. This is so good. Okay.
I'm so thrilled.
You're great. Um, so here's the thing, right? Luxury is so impactful to us because like luxury is something, no matter what, to everyone, it feels like extra, right? That's actually extremely good, right? Because it puts us into a different frequency, right?
Mm,
Because like if you actually, because a lot of people think that like there's scarcity and there's like abundance and like they're like on completely different planets, but really they're on a spectrum, right? And they're actually on an entire spectrum of abundance. So it's either an abundance of scarcity or an abundance of abundance,
oh, damn.
right? So the thing is, if we're willing to say that we have extra of abundance on the abundance end versus an abundance of scarcity, we're moving up the spectrum. So this is getting into like a very like mental headspace, but it can be very helpful for us to understand.
Yes, I'm living.
Yeah. So the thing is that we can immediately say to ourselves, I can't experience luxury until I have X. However, in your journey of getting to X, whatever that is, right? How you experience getting to the goal is how you will experience the goal itself when you get to the end result, right? So if you hustle hard, burn yourself out, and like finally hit that 6, 7 figure business, you're going to be at that 6, 7 figure business and have a hustle hard, burnt out business that you then potentially will have to make the hard decision of, I need to take a financial hit to restructure my business, or I need to burn this whole thing down.
Oof, yes.
Right. So the thing is, instead, if we can be like, okay, I'm going to get up to the abundance side of the spectrum versus the abundance of scarcity side of the spectrum, we need to be willing to say, I'm allowed to have abundance now, which most of the time comes in the form of luxury for many of us. Right. And that luxury, again, can look different. Remember, you're allowed to define luxury. And our minds immediately want to go to, well, like, of course, luxury is like potentially the designer thing, traveling a bunch. And I want to invite you into what are small luxuries throughout your day, number one. And then also luxury that does not take like spending money. Okay. So I chose to like flirt with luxury throughout my entire journey when I was making $0 and when I was making now 6 figures, right? So the whole thing is that like when I was in, I'm going to give some examples of like when I was not making money, how do you actually flirt with luxury, right?
Yes, please.
So number one is I wanted to first ask the critical question of like, okay, well, what are non-spending luxury activities to me, right? One aspect of luxury for me was actually a freedom of time and control of my time. So, for instance, deciding to go for a walk in the middle of the day when it wasn't the quote unquote lunch hour, right? Of just being like, I'm getting up and going for a walk. I don't need to tell a boss. I'm my own boss. Like, I'm deciding to go for a walk in the middle of the day. And like, if I can be out as long as I want, doesn't matter, right?
Yes.
But that's like a luxury of freedom, right? Another thing was like looking up, like, this one happened recently for me, but it's something that was like, wow, I feel like if I had known about it, I think it's a new company. Anyways, they deliver prescriptions for free. I find it very annoying to go to the pharmacy. The lines are always very long. I just like want my prescription. Like,
Yeah.
like,
Yes.
and like, and there is this company now that like just delivers your prescriptions for free. And I guess they must get whatever the copay or whatever, but there's no like delivery fee. So there's such, then it's like a reclamation of time and a luxury of like this errand that I would normally do that would take me a lot of time, that's pretty annoying to me and like kind of frustrating. They now just deliver to me, right? So that's like a luxury of like service, like of experiencing service. Then on top of that, it's like discovering what does feel luxurious to you. So at this time, I wasn't in the position to like go and get my nails done. Right. And that could be like, you could be in a position where it's like, no, a luxury for me is having my nails done, getting it done every 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whenever it is. Totally fine. Fully support that. I also didn't like people doing my nails that much because I never liked the cuticle thing. And like, I was always like, please don't do that. And then they do it. And I was like, please don't do that. Like, why are you not? Please stop.
You're like, I don't love this sensation.
Like, so anyways, I was like, okay, I'm going to upgrade like doing my own nails, right? Which meant like I ended up getting like a foot bath and like I would put bubbles in it, rose petals, like the whole 9 yards. And then I decided what is the most like luxurious feeling nail polish? For me at the time, it was OPI, right?
Yes.
That is the luxury nail polish. Like that's like the ones you see at the salons. It just makes you feel like extra, right? And so I was like, shit though, like OPI, when you're making $0, spending $13 on a nail polish can be like, that feels luxurious and ridiculous. I did decide to spend the $13 on the one, but as soon as I gave myself permission, I then like was like, oh my gosh, Marshalls and TJ Maxx has these for like $3 a piece, like on like
Right.
colors they're no longer producing, or I don't even know. But like, however the things end up in the stores. But I was
Love
like,
a good Marshalls run.
right? Exactly.
Yes.
Right. It's like, okay, cool. So it's like, oh shit, I'm no longer willing to buy crappy nail polish. I'm only willing to buy OPI And then because I made the decision of like, this is what luxury means to me, this is what I'm willing to advocate for in my life, it was like, then I was like, oh, look at, there's these like affordable OPI nail polishes. And now I just only have OPI nail polish. Right. So, and then like the other thing was like, I love a pastry out. I know I'm giving lots of examples, but I think it's super
No, it's
helpful for
helpful.
folks. I love a pastry out. Okay. However, pastries out can be expensive and they can make you feel really guilty. So I was like, okay, I need to not buy as many pastries out or go to cafes as frequently when I'm at zero. Now it's a different situation. But like, you know, when I was in that situation, I was like, okay, how can I have the coffee experience at home that's going to make me just as happy and delightful? Right. So it meant actually getting coffee beans that were like really good quality, figuring out French press coffee,
Yes.
and then discovering the Trader Joe's frozen pastries.
Amen.
Like, and so for like one box, it's $5, where you would have been spending $4 to $5 on one pastry one time. I got four for $5 and would have like pastry cafe mornings at home.
Love it.
So like, this is not to say that you need, that's like on the scale of like, I was not making money and, or I had like a very low income and I wanted to experience luxury now, right? What
Yes.
that looked like as I moved up, right, was like buying flowers more consistently at the grocery store, getting a membership to like the movie theater where like you'd get like X number of tickets per month. And like this was before COVID. I don't have my movie pass anymore. I feel like it's been ages since I've gone to the movies. But like a huge luxury was like going to the movies in the middle of the day. Like that felt
Yes.
outrageous because it like when I was in the 9 to 5, it's like you're not like leaving in the middle of the day to go to the movies. Like what?
Right.
Like
Like that. No, where are you going?
right? So like that felt just like really rebellious, really like, oh my gosh, I'm totally in control of everything. I'm like, I've created my own the reality that I want, right? And so like as you increase your income, how you flirt with luxury can increase, right?
Yes.
And like it meant buying like prescription sunglasses for me as that increased and then going to get like sugaring appointments because like I hate shaving and like like again these are my flavors of luxury though like
Yep.
sugaring waxing thing people have really come at me for sometimes and I'm like again guys this is literally an entire thing about like my version of luxury. It's what feels good to me. You don't have to do that.
Right. You're like, you have
Well,
other, do your own thing.
like be hairy. I'm down.
Yeah.
Like
You're like,
like so like it's very entertaining though, right? Like how much this luxury, just as you said, can really be triggering to people and being like, I'm defining it that way. It's like, yeah, because this is my luxury, this is my life, this is what it feels like to me. As like and like getting higher and higher, it was like then custom jewelry and like now I have a like a house cleaner and I have someone that comes and I send my like linens out to be washed, right? Because like that's exhausting laundry to me.
yes. Same.
So like I send those out, right? Like there's like other luxury as we spiral up in our income that we're allowed to flirt with. And that's not to say, I want to be very clear here. If this is happening for you, I super celebrate it. And again, remember to stay in that observational state, even as you spiral up in income, to make sure that you're not offloading money just because you have more of it. That can happen a lot. When we get more money, we just automatically find ways to offload it because it feels uncomfortable to hold and have.
Yes. Can that be like the, oh my God, I could talk to you for 4 hours. I want to transition eventually. I'm like, damn it, to where we could find you. But before we
Yeah.
do, can you like give a bullet point? I know it's like not a bullet point, but like about holding
Yeah.
or so holding, because that's a huge one. And in addition, if there's any other insight wisdom that you're like, hold on, Erica, I must say this before we go.
Yeah. Such a good thing. I think holding is a thing I definitely should say before I go. So
Yeah. I'm like, wait, this is a huge one.
I know. I was like, I'm just going to drop that one.
I'm like, wait.
Yeah. So, okay. So we tend to fall into two camps. Like when we start to get more money, we either want to like squirrel it away and like not give ourselves permission to spend on anything, or we want to spend it away and like offload it because it feels uncomfortable to hold. Both can like be kind of out of balance behaviors with our money, right? And can lead to a number of things. So I'm going to talk about just like holding in general. So, um, where this normally is rooted is if we have grown up in instability, stability then feels unsafe. So our mind is like very confused once we start to earn more and have more, like holding literally feels unsafe. So we want to like we want to get in control of the potential disappointment or attack, right? Because if you've grown up in financial instability, a lot of times what happens is like you maybe had like you remember as a kid there was like a moment you guys had enough, it was going well, and then something happened, like the other shoe dropped, right? So to avoid experiencing that disappointment, that letdown between you and money, right? Because you probably felt let down by money, you felt let down by the universe, you felt let down by X, Y, and Z, whatever it might be. Like distrust was built, but like you were used to instability. What happens is you're like, I'm going to take control of the situation and I'm going to offload the money before it can get taken from me. So totally okay, right? No, like we don't need to be upset at ourselves for like us deciding to like play with our money that way. But it's like once we become aware of that, we then just need to become observant of like, okay, I am now at this new income. I just for some reason still don't have enough money. I don't know where it's going. It's again, right? Going back to that, okay, like let's get into an observant state. Let's understand like, am I wanting to offload this money because it feels uncomfortable to have? And I'm scared that it's just going to get taken from me anyway. So I'd prefer to make the decision on how it gets taken from me. Right. So
Right.
it's a control tactic. And so if we understand that like dynamic that's going on most of the time, like that's like the most common dynamic that's happening. And so like if we can understand that, then we can get into the observant space and be able to be like, oh, okay, like this is how I would like to hold money. I'd like to have a savings. I'd like to be contributing more to my retirement. I'd like to have X number of dollars in my checking account. And it's about kind of reprogramming ourselves to know that stability is safe. And that just takes time and work, honestly, and like a lot of like deconditioning and and deeper work. So it's just about like staying consistent with like it's safe for me to receive more, it's safe for me to receive more, and just like understanding kind of your internal set points, right? It's kind of like your window of tolerance around stability, your window of tolerance around income, your window of tolerance around instability, right? Like
Yes.
it's kind of just uncovering what those are and like just as you said, right? Continuing to increase that capacity, which is just make that window bigger to receive more, to be more comfortable, instability, things like that.
I'm obsessed, and I say this a lot, but like I genuinely am so sad we're like at time because I'm like, but wait, so like we might have to do a part two.
I would be totally down.
Okay, great. Because I'm like, hold on, like, yeah, I'm like, wait, I'm like, there's like literally, I say this a lot, but I'm like, I genuinely think there's like a lot that we need to follow up on. I'm obsessed with you. You're fucking killing it. This work is so important, and it like feels, this conversation feels doable, exciting. It's not like fuck, be perfect. Like this felt really great. So everyone needs to know where you are in the world. Like, so tell us where we can find you on the gram or wherever, like your website, all the good promotion shit.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm at Eleanor Prisco on everything. So
Yes.
really simplistic.
Love
folks,
it.
like super simple. So it's that on Instagram, on Facebook, TikTok, all the things, right? And you can just like find me on any of them. Instagram has like the easiest way to get to like all the links and everything like that. Right now, an amazing way to work with me is my mastermind is opening up. It's a really small, intimate container of 10 women. So like this is all about like sustainably scaling your business and expanding that capacity, kind of that final point we're talking about of like how do we get comfortable with stability, how do we get comfortable with scaling, how do we get comfortable with literally expanding our capacity to receive more, hold more, whether that be clients, money, whatever it is, but really being like, what does it look like to build the business of my dreams and then be the CEO that I want to be and desire to be to achieve that, right? Kind of going back to the conversation we were having of like acting as if, but it's not spending as if. It's like, who do I need to be that person? So That's the best way to kind of work with me right now that's available. But sometimes I always have like one-on-one spots opening up. So shoot me a quick DM or just hop on my calendar from the links on my Instagram page and you'll be able to get all the info and we'll be able to chat.
Yay! Seriously, thank you so much. Part 2 is probably due.
Yeah.
But this was a fucking amazing start. So seriously, thank you so much. And I encourage everyone to go find this amazing, beautiful woman and be in her world.
Oh, thank you so much. This was like such a pleasure and like such a good conversation. I just enjoyed it so much. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course, this was literally the best. Thank you. Thank you, seriously thank you so much for joining me on today's episode and on this podcast journey. And if you loved what we talked about today and you know another human who could definitely benefit from what was discussed, I would so appreciate if you would go ahead and share this podcast with them. Don't forget, hit subscribe or follow so you never ever miss an episode. And the great news is you can always follow me, my work, my blog, my podcast on my website at www.wethelight.org. And hey, remember, life is so much brighter when we shine. I'll see you next time.